Welcome to another video. Today's story might just change the way you see everything around you. Imagine being only 14 years old and having an experience so powerful, it shifts your entire view of life. Our story follows Jamie, a young boy who found himself face to face with Jesus after a tragic accident, and what he learned is something you may have never heard before. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment with your name and city, and let us know what you think after you hear Jamie's incredible story. Let's jump in. I never thought that life could end so quickly, and at just 14, it seemed like something that only happened to other people. But there I was, on the edge of life and death. My whole world turned upside down in an instant. What I'm about to tell you completely changed my view of the world, of life itself, and of what it means to truly love. It all started one evening after basketball practice. My dad was driving us home through the quiet streets of our town, Springfield, Colorado. We were laughing, talking about my free throws and my coach's pep talk. We weren't speeding. We weren't doing anything risky. But in one moment, everything changed. Out of nowhere, a truck barreled through a red light and crashed into our car. The impact was like nothing I could have imagined. Loud, violent, and complete darkness. When I finally came to, I was lying in a hospital bed with doctors surrounding me, their faces tense and serious. I felt weak, as if the very energy I used to breathe was slipping away from me. My parents were beside me, holding my hands, and their eyes filled with worry and fear. I wanted to say something to comfort them, to tell them I was okay, but I could barely even blink. That's when I felt it. A strange, heavy calm washed over me, like I was being pulled somewhere beyond myself. Slowly, I drifted out of my body, floating upward, and found myself watching everything from above. It was a bizarre, surreal feeling. I could see my own face, pale and still on the hospital bed, with my parents beside me, holding my hands and crying. The doctors were doing everything they could, but in that moment, I felt detached, as if the pain and worry were far below me. There was a calmness I can't describe, like all the fears, the pain and the anxiety of life had been lifted away. As I looked around, I realized something was calling me, a gentle pull, a feeling that I was meant to go somewhere else. It wasn't frightening, it felt welcoming. Then, everything around me started to change. I felt myself moving faster and faster, through darkness that transformed into a warm, bright light, brighter than anything I had ever seen, but somehow not blinding. I felt safe, more at peace than I ever thought possible, as if I was surrounded by a presence I'd known all my life, but had never fully realized was there. As I moved into this light, I suddenly saw him, a figure standing there, glowing, radiating warmth and kindness. It was Jesus, but not the Jesus I had pictured from church. He didn't look like a painting or a statue. He was different, more real. His eyes were deep and full of compassion, and when he looked at me, I felt like every part of me, every worry, every mistake, and every fear was completely known and accepted. "Jamie," he said, though he didn't actually speak. I could just feel the words inside me. "You've come here to learn something important." There was no judgment, no disappointment, just a deep understanding, like he knew everything about me and loved me anyway. The peace I felt was indescribable, and I knew somehow that I could ask him anything. I didn't even need to form the questions. He already knew. "Jamie," he continued, "you're here to understand something that can change the way you live." He showed me things I can hardly explain with words. It was as if The whole universe was alive and connected. I could feel everything around me: trees, mountains, rivers, even stars, all joined by a thread of love. It was like each thing, each person, was a part of something larger, something that connected us all. Then, I saw the most incredible vision yet. It was as if I was watching scenes of human lives unfolding like pages in a storybook, flipping by quickly, yet I could feel each moment deeply. I saw people, strangers from all walks of life, laughing, crying, helping one another, and sometimes hurting each other. I could see how even the smallest actions rippled out, affecting not just those directly involved, but even strangers who never knew each other. Each act of kindness, every harsh word, sent waves through this invisible web, weaving together lives in ways I'd never considered. I understood then that life wasn't as random or separate as I'd always thought. The connections were endless, invisible strings linking every person, every creature, every part of nature. When someone did something kind, it was like a light shone through the web, making it stronger. But each time someone acted out of anger or fear, it was as though a shadow crept through, dimming the light. I realized that we all had a role in keeping this web strong, bright, and full of love. Jesus was teaching me, not with words, but with these experiences, showing me that every thought, every choice, mattered more than I could ever imagine. After these visions, I felt an even deeper pull toward Jesus. I could feel questions rising inside me about love, faith, and the true purpose of life. Somehow he already knew what I wanted to ask. As he looked at me with those eyes full of kindness and patience, I felt him inviting me to ask freely, to understand everything that had been locked in my heart. It was like he was reminding me that curiosity was good, that it wasn't something to fear. There was a freedom here that made me realize I had spent so much time on earth worrying about fitting in, about not making mistakes, about doing everything right. But Jesus was showing me that true love, real understanding, went beyond rules and fears. But then he showed me more. I saw scenes from my life, from moments I barely remembered. I watched as every single thing I'd done, every act of kindness, every harsh word, created ripples that went far beyond what I could see. Even the smallest things, like a smile or a few words of encouragement, mattered more than I ever realized. Love, he said, is the essence of all things. It's what connects us, gives us purpose. That's what life is truly about. His words washed over me like a gentle wave, and suddenly I understood. Life wasn't about rules or fitting into some mold. It was about learning to love unconditionally. Jesus didn't care about the mistakes I had made. He cared about the way I chose to act from that moment forward. It was about learning, growing, and seeing the light in others, even when it was hard to find. I felt my thoughts drift to questions I'd always had about faith, about judgment, and about what really mattered. Somehow he knew, and he answered me without me even needing to ask. People on earth are often taught that faith is about judgment and rules, about earning a place in heaven. But that's not the truth, Jamie. True faith is simply about love. Unconditional, boundless love that is always there, no matter who you are or what you've done. It's not about being perfect. It's about learning to see and share that love with others. It hit me hard. I realized how many times I'd worried about things that didn't really matter. I'd thought faith was about doing things right, about never making mistakes. But now, Jesus was showing me that it was about something far deeper than any rule. It was about kindness, patience, and seeing the goodness in people even when they didn't show it themselves. As I listened, I felt a sense of purpose forming in me, like I'd been given a new way of looking at life. Jesus looked at me with a kindness I could feel in my bones. "You have the choice, Jamie," he said. "You can carry this understanding with you. Share it with others, not through words, but through your actions." In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to live with this kind of love. I wanted to go back, to show the people around me what I had seen, to treat others with the compassion and understanding I felt in this place. But as I looked around, a sadness crept in. I didn't want to leave this light, this love. The thought of returning to the pain and struggle of life felt almost unbearable. Jesus reached out and placed his hand on my shoulder, and I felt warmth spread through me, filling me with courage. "You'll never truly be alone, Jamie. I'll be with you, in every act of kindness, in every moment of love. Whenever you choose to show compassion, to see the good in others, you'll feel my presence. And when it's time, you'll return to this place of peace." With those words, I felt a wave of calm and a deep understanding that even on earth, I would carry this light with me. It was as if he'd placed a piece of it within me, a reminder of the love that was always there. Then, the light around me started to fade, and I felt myself drifting back, pulled down through darkness and back into my body. I opened my eyes to the blinding hospital lights and saw my parents leaning over me, their faces full of relief and joy. The doctors told me later that I'd been dead for nearly 20 minutes. They said it was a miracle I had come back at all, and honestly, I couldn't argue with them. But I knew that it was something even more than a miracle. It was a gift, a chance to see life differently. In the days and weeks after, I struggled to explain what had happened. How do you tell people about a world that's more real than anything on earth, a place where love is everything? Slowly, I began to tell my friends and family, but it wasn't easy to put into words. Since then, I've tried to live by what I experienced. I'm not perfect and I still make mistakes, but now I understand that every small act matters. Every kindness is like a spark, and if enough people share that spark, it can light up the world. So if you're listening to this and wondering what you can do, just know that every time you choose kindness, every time you forgive, you're sharing that light. And maybe one day, you'll get a glimpse of it too. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. I hope Jamie's story has touched you and reminds you of the love that connects us all. See you in the next video.